Blaze TV host Jason Whitlock recently spoke on Glenn Beck's show, and he's telling us why he's voting for the first time in November. So he joins us now, along with Matthew Peterson, editor-in-chief of Blaze News. So Jason, thanks for joining us. So let's break this down, because this is a very important question. What convinced you to go and vote this year compared to previous years where you didn't? You sat out.
Yeah. Listen, I feel like that it would be selfish on my part not to participate in this very important election cycle. For me personally, I'm a supporter of the people that protested on January 6, 2021, and so many of them have been thrown under a jail, and Donald Trump is the only way many of these people will get out in a timely fashion, or as soon as they possibly can, and that's if President Trump would pardon them. And so I feel like there's real consequence to this election in terms of an issue that I'm very passionate about, and that's relief for the January 6th defendants. And then on an even broader, bigger scale, we seem so on course for World War III if the establishment continues its control over our political system. And so Donald Trump seems like the best way to try to avert nuclear conflict in a world war that could really change the dynamics globally. So just there's too much at risk, too much at stake for me to sit this election out. I haven't, this to me is, I've bought the hype that this is the most important election of my lifetime, and so I'm going to participate.
Jason, what would you say to people who, are kind of sitting there thinking similar things to probably all of us have thought in the past, which is, why bother? Politics doesn't work in America. These are all wealthy people who don't care about me, and nothing ever changes and just gets worse, right? All that kind of stuff. What would your pitch be to people now as to why they should get up and vote? I mean, is it, you just said World War III. I mean, is that it? I mean, how would you kind of describe this to most people?
Well, I think it's that, and I think that the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, to me, if you were on the fence, like, oh, the deep state, the people in power, they don't really hate Trump, or he's no different than anybody else. It's clear as day that with that assassination attempt and the way, in my view, that Secret Service, FBI, law enforcement failed in its job, that Donald Trump is such an extreme threat to the deep state that, they tried to take him out. And so you can be in denial that, oh, they try to kill all the presidents, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's actually true in terms of people that really have a chance at killing a president. I don't think they do it to all of them. And so I just think you're lying to yourself if you don't think there is something different about Donald Trump and his presidency and the political movement that he has set off. And that's not me caping up for everything Donald Trump does. It's not me caping up for his, unconventional, sometimes, off-putting behavior. But just don't lie to yourself. And this election has real consequence, and you don't want to be sitting on the sidelines and saying you didn't do your part if we do wind up in a World War III, if this Ukraine situation continues to get out of hand, if you're tired of endless foreign wars and foreign conflicts. And this has been going on now for 100 years. And we had one president in that time, or I think in the last 50, 60 years, who didn't get us involved in some sort of, foreign conflict. He's our best chance to avoid more endless wars. And that's a compelling argument for me, as is just on a personal level. If you care anything about the people rotting in jail over January 6th, and I'm not saying that nothing should have happened to those people, but there are people that got years and years. Some of them weren't even there on January 6th, and they're rotting in prison. And We saw people, burn up cities, loot cities, kill police officers. All that stuff was written off and looked the other way. And we've decided that the January 6th people are the worst people on the planet. Let's put them underneath the jail. I'm just sorry. That's a compelling reason enough for me. If Donald Trump did nothing else but pardon the January 6th people, I would be more than happy that I cast my vote.
Jason, you mentioned the Trump assassination attempt. We aren't even officially 2 months out from when they shot Donald Trump, when Thomas Crooks shot Donald Trump. And yet we still want to talk about the JFK assassination. People are still fascinated about that. That's still talked about to this day. It hasn't even been 2 months, and people want to memory hole it like it didn't happen. And yet it is one of the more important things in this election cycle that people aren't talking about. And why is that?
It's funny, you mentioned JFK, and I immediately went to RFK Jr., who I met here in Nashville. He was on my show a year and a half ago or so, and it was a conversation on camera. There was a conversation off camera, and obviously his father and uncle were both assassinated. And when I look at RFK, and I said this at the time when I met him a year and a half ago, he was so outspoken about COVID and what was going on with Big Pharma. And I was like, man, you're really risking your life here. This is so impressive, because if anybody understands the consequences of speaking truth in this country, it's you, based on what happened to your dad and your uncle. And that's the other thing that's compelling me to get involved. I'm looking at men like RFK Jr. take risk, real risk. He's risking his life, no different than Donald Trump. I'm looking at Elon Musk, one of the richest people on the planet. Get involved in this fight, and there's real consequences. Elon has made himself even more infamous and even more of a business target and just a safety target. And so for someone like me who leans into male masculinity and male leadership, I can't be a coward, be a hypocrite, and sit out. I'm not taking near the risk that RFK Jr. is taking, that President Trump is taking, that Elon Musk is taking. But I have to take some risk. And it's been important to my brand as a journalist to somewhat be uninvolved in the political process and not be a political partisan. But to protect the brand, I have to get involved. The stakes are just incredibly high. And, as you mentioned with the JFK thing, we've had so many events going on for so long, 6 decades now, that haven't been properly explained to the American people. And I'm just tired of it. And I hope a lot of people in America are tired of it. We need some transparency from our government, and we need some government that's actually on the side of the people and not on the side of the political elite and the globalists.
Jason, you might remind me, have you seen the RFK video that Nicole Shanahan put out where she goes back and shows something of the assassination attempts on his uncle and father?
I have not. I think I saw it, and for some reason I didn't click on it.
Yeah, well, definitely worth watching if you're, in the audience out there to go check out. And it triggered something in me that you're talking about. And she doesn't do it in the video. She doesn't connect it to the Trump assassination. That remains for someone to do. In fact, I don't have enough free time in my life, but I used to EP those sorts of videos, and it's just sitting there. And I guess the theme that I was thinking about, so what you're reminding me of is, you could see these assassination attempts before, and without saying anything about why they're happening, you would show this one, and the difference is that he gets up and rises in a fashion that's so remarkable. If you put it in a movie, people would say that's ridiculous. It couldn't have happened that way. And he gets up. And in a way, it seems to that's the theme of the campaign, and that's sort of what you're saying, that he rises up and he's going to stand against this large, faceless sort of administrative state. But how many people do you think understand that? I mean, I mean, I don't, this is what's people feel it in some way, but how do you get that across? And maybe another way to get it across is to say, well, what would happen if Kamala Harris wins? What do you think about this?
I do. What has gone on, Matt, it's connected to what you're talking about. Is it's clear as day, Matt, we don't have a president right now. Joe Biden is incapacitated and nothing has stopped. And everyone's ignoring that we don't have a president. And they want us comfortable with that. So Kamala Harris would not be the president. She would be the puppet they've installed. That's becoming clear as day. Joe Biden is incapacitated. We don't have a president. Kamala Harris, they're putting up for president. And she's unqualified, afraid of the media, won't do press conferences, is basically letting the media campaign for her, and she's facing no resistance. So this is the way she would operate in office. So it would be this shadowy, faceless group of people that are pulling her puppet strings and telling her what to say and setting her in front of a prompter. And they want the American people to be comfortable with that it doesn't matter if Kamala Harris has no business being the president and no qualifications really for being a president. She didn't have any qualifications for being vice president. They're like, hey, that worked. Hey, she was vice president, attorney general in San Francisco, part of the U.S. Senate. They want us used to that. And Donald Trump, because of his wealth growing up, because of his personality quirks, he's not controllable. And they want someone who they can control so that they can continue to orchestrate and run things in a way with no respect for the average American citizen. Trump's weakness, the fact that he's uncontrollable, and it is a weakness because I wish he were more disciplined, but it's actually a strength in this scenario. His unwillingness to be controlled makes him hard for the regime, the establishment, to control and to put puppet strings on. And occasionally Donald Trump wants to put his hands on the wheel of the car and say, hey, no, this is what America should do. And what they want is someone like Kamala Harris who just wants the job, the power, go down in history. That's what that's what this whole thing was about for Joe Biden. I did it because of Charlottesville, and I did it because of, X, Y, and Z. No, you did it because you wanted to go down in history. You wanted to say you were president. A lot of people are power hungry and want that attention. I sincerely believe that, Donald Trump may have some of those feelings. Wanted to go down in history, wanted to be famous. But he also just wanted to do it because he thought he could make a bit of a difference. And so if people don't understand that now, that we have a office right now, the presidency, that's very weak and is getting weaker and weaker by the day. Weak with Joe Biden sitting in there, obviously cognitively impaired, and Kamala Harris, qualified, impaired. If I don't know, the facts are so obvious to me that it's difficult. I get Trump derangement syndrome. I get, listen, I've talked to people in my own family that, well, I just don't like Donald Trump and he's not nice. And, he's just not. And I'm like, this isn't high school student council where you vote for the most popular person in school or the prettiest girl or whatever. It's the only thing I care about, the only thing we should care about at this point is the policies. And are the policies going to lead us into a world war, a nuclear conflict? Or are the policies going to help it so your groceries are cheaper? And for me, are the policies going to lead as the president going to spring some people up out of prison that I'd like to see out of jail? If people don't understand that at this point, I just give up, and I wish we could go. I've said it, and I don't want to irritate anybody, but I just say, they should only let married people with kids vote. No one else needs to vote. If you're married and have kids, you vote. You got a higher stake in this country than those of us like me that aren't married and don't have kids. You have a future to worry about. And so when you don't have a future to worry about, when you don't have kids and you're not married, you just become very selfish. And, hey, what's best for me? And, are all my needs getting met? And, it's not my vote. Anyway, that's
that's all good.
I'm so stupid.
That's all good. It's only the leader of the free world, Jason, but what's up for grabs?